Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to a very special episode. This bonus episode focuses on a rather interesting concept. The concept is strategy sprints, and our guest is Simon Severino. Hi Simon, welcome to the show.
Hey Vasco, great to be here.
A pleasure to have you. So Simon joins us today from Vienna in Austria. He's the CEO of a company called Strategy Sprints, which I think is brilliant when you name the service you provide after the company or vice versa. That's brilliant. I really love that. That's why this is called Scrum Master Toolbox, because that's exactly what it is about. It's about giving Scrum Masters a toolbox, increasing their toolbox. Simon is the CEO of Strategy Sprints, as I said, Europe's leading remote growth advisory. His global team of certified strategy sprint coaches do only one thing: double the revenue of service-based businesses in 90 days. Simon also teaches growth strategy in select business schools and hosts the Strategy Show podcast. So Simon, that was a short intro to you. Take a minute, tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got started with the whole idea of strategy sprints, and also what are they?
Thank you. So 17 years ago, I started by having a job as a growth consultant, and I was doing this in a very traditional way. So BMW would call, big corporations would call, and we would do strategy development and deployment. And as you know, in the deployment part, we were facing some 90% of the projects not really working. So I started studying the agile methods. And I did this for 17 years. Before then, I created my own company. I said, let's do this full agile now. I'm ready now. And we founded Strategy Sprints. It's now a whole team of sprint coaches that I coordinate, that I onboard, and we do double the revenue of service-based businesses in 90 days. That means we coach them one-to-one in a way to improve their processes and especially their numbers, their market numbers. So this is a strategy sprint. It came out of my experience, first, that waterfall is not working. We all know that. But the second is, the agile methods, they were working really well, especially Lean Startup, Scrum, and Design Thinking were working super well on a product level. So my question was, how can we transpose that to the company level? So how to run a company in an agile way? So I said, let me develop agile strategy. And we created the Strategy Sprint, which is this 90-day sprint format made of 12 sprints of 7 days. We validated it, and now we're having a ton of fun with it. I'm even hiring sprinters.
Very good, very good. So walk us through that strategy sprint, those 12 sprints of 7 days. What's the usual process you take your clients through? Let's say I wanted to double my revenue, and I actually want, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But where would I start? Like, what are the steps? Where would we go? What would we go through?
First thing, you get a call of 45 minutes with a sprint coach, and they try to find out with you if it's the right thing for you, because it's not the right thing for everybody. So there are a couple of things that we need to check if you have a good ROI on it. And we want to check it because you have a money back guarantee, 100%. So if we don't hit that goal, you get your money back. So this 45 minutes, we will go through a series of questions around your current numbers, your current product, people, and processes. And after that, you know your ROI, and we make a so-called roadmap. The roadmap is 3 months, 3 goals, and numeric progress. So every month has a set of 3 to 7 deliverables and 1 numeric goal. The numeric goal is a revenue. It's either new added revenue or new recurring revenue. And then there are some secondary metrics, your confidence in achieving the goals of next week, which is the next sprint, and how happy is your client. which we measure in NPS. So there are these three metrics, and this is measured every 7 days. But to know what to measure, so the how is always the same. Every 7 days, we measure these three metrics. But to know what to measure, you will define with your sprint coach based on the roadmap what your numbers are. And we are here to ensure that you get these numbers. So every 7 days, we measure progress and we plan the next sprint. So there are no surprises. So it never happened that after 60 days or 90 days, people say, oh, I didn't hit my goals, because every 7 days, we know if we are hitting goals or not. And this is the nice thing about Agile. It's absolutely de-risked. So we never change the goals, but we always change the activities that lead to the goals. We run a multiple set of parallel experiments that should invalidate or validate the assumptions that you have. And this is the sprint process. A set of experiments, a set of activities that gets measured every 7 days. What works will be doubled down on in the next week. What doesn't work, we don't do a second time.
So it sounds like somebody came up with a way to apply what we already know very well, the idea of Scrum in the product development in a business setting with business goals. And the question that I have for you is, why did it take so long? What triggered you to actually, put one and one together in your mind? Because obviously you went through a process to get there, but you did something that many people are still not aware of today. So how did you get there? How did you actually think, you know what, it actually makes sense to do sprints with executives and sales directors and directors of product and so on?
Oh, that's a great question. So one was my personal confidence level. So I am somebody, I need first effects and then I believe it. So I run a ton of prototypes and I validated every single module. Now in the Sprint University, we have 274 modules. One module is made of a training video and the template. And the template is click and use. So it's a spreadsheet or a doc that you can immediately use. So I had to build all these things, and that took me a couple of years. And with more confidence, maybe I would have started this faster. But there were a couple of things that I thought I need to get right first. First, the modules, then results. I wanted to have 10 clients who had this result and then go out and say, okay, we got it now. So I had a lot of beta testing. And the third thing that I thought, especially my clients who were big corporates, they were not ready for a full remote work. They always said, yeah, but I want a one-day workshop, come to my city, let's golf for 3 hours, etc. So it was still a lot of old school patterns. And I thought the world is not ready for this. It's too early. But then came COVID and everything changed. And it really accelerated how the world now takes it.
Yeah, so you were talking about the aspect that all of this process is then actually remote.
Completely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I need to dig deeper a little bit. So let's try to understand, like, what was your mental model? So you had the experience of waterfall strategy development and deployment doesn't work. Lots of projects of strategy development and deployment end up in the can, like, wasted time, basically, not only for the clients, but most important, I'm sure, for you, because you were probably frustrated by that. So, and then you had that experience of Agile. You started to understand how it works, Lean Startup, Scrum, the Lean concepts, all of that. Okay, cool. So now you have this. You have a problem with strategy deployment and development, and then you have a tool set, the Scrum and Agile and Lean tool set that does not, and there's not much content out there telling you how to put that into a business management perspective. So how did you actually make the connection? I mean, did you just wake up one day and say, hey, why don't we do, strategy sprints of 7 days? I'm sure it wasn't like that. So how did you actually get there? What was the steps that actually made you connect the two ideas?
Great question. So I think for about 10 years, this was incubating, and I was doing a workshop. And during the workshop with 25 participants, I was thinking, this cannot be the best way of doing it. this is not natural. It's not natural for us to be 8 hours in a PIP planning session or 8 hours to be in a strategic scenario session. I don't think this is the right way. I thought observing how kids play and create, I thought, and how my natural day looks like, I thought it is much more natural, especially for top executives who don't have 8 hours on block. It's much more natural to do 10 minutes here, 90 minutes here, then single work, to break it up. So what we do right now is there is a 90 minutes session with 3 of the team, and then there are individual packages, and they have 24 hours access to us, asking us, hey, this is the prototype, what do you think? And then 3 days later, we have again 90 minutes, but we discuss already prototypes and the outcome of the experiment. So we have some data. Based on that data, then we take again decisions. So in one day, people do not have any more 8 hours of workshop with us, which I find absolutely unnatural. I never liked it. Now the day of a client is really different. They have 2 hours of building a prototype, then 10 minutes of discussing the prototype with the sprint coach. Then they have 3 hours of testing it with their clients. Then they have 1 hour where they just go outside and walk the dog or they run. Then they have 1 hour where they play with your kids. Then they have 2 hours again where they immerse in the sprint again. And this is a much more natural flow of the day. So I was really frustrated with these rituals and traditions of the introductory round of a workshop and all these rituals that I wanted to break free from. And it took me 10 years to test the single parts. And when I had them all validated, then I said, okay, I'm ready now. Let's do this.
Absolutely. That's a great story. In the email that you sent me about the topics we could discuss, you mentioned something. You sent me like a list of 7 topics. We've talked about some, we'll talk about more. And there's one that kind of caught my eye immediately because it kind of represents something that I have been doing with product owners specifically. You call that idea, cut your lists in half. What do you mean by that? And of course, how do we get there? How do we help product owners be that focused, that crystal clear on what is necessary?
This is one routine that helps us as a team, the Strategy Sprints team. Whenever we do our monthly planning, weekly planning, whatever internal meeting we have and say, okay, let's do this. Okay, and let's create this. Let's improve this. Let's solve that. Somebody says, perfect, that's the list. How can we cut it in half? And this is such a helpful question. So you have done your first list, now cut it in half. And you know what's even better? That sometimes another person in the team says, hey, can we cut this list in half? And then we have just a quarter of what we wanted to create because we are full of ideas. And especially me, the CEO, I can come up with 100 ideas per day, and this is just not healthy to do them all. The best thing is then to cut that list in half and then cut it in half again, because automatically now you are thinking, what is the critical path? What is the one thing that moves most of the results forward? And I saw this now in August. I was in Italy in our beach house, and I was just working 1 hour a day for 4 weeks. And in that hour, we moved forward so much more as a whole team. So do less, but do the things that are on your critical path. This is what this idea is all about. And the application is ask each other whenever you do a list of stuff, can we cut this in half?
So there, I see 2 steps here. So as a Scrum Master, when I hear you, I come up with this concept that I will help my product owner create a list, and they always have a list, a lot bigger list than they are even willing to share, and the ones they share are already humongous, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I work with the product owner to go through that list and cut it in half. That would be the first part, right? So cut that list in half. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, I'm sure other ideas will come up as the product owner goes through the list and starts cutting stuff out. He starts connecting the dots among different things and comes up with even more ideas. And then we cut that list in half. So we're actually not only cutting the list in half, because that's exactly what the task is, but we're, if I understand you correctly, we're actually crystallizing on what is it that is really important to do.
Yes, you are searching for the 20% that will move 80% forward. You are asking what is the most direct path to reach the main goal, instead of brainstorming a lot of ideas, which is absolutely not helpful. We even we don't have a backlog anymore. We always had a backlog.
Oh, I love that. I created a hashtag called No Backlogs on Twitter. I got a lot of backlash from that. So tell me, how did you get there?
Beautiful. Yes, I'm joining. So, one inspiration and one thing that helps me a lot is the GTD method. So I had David Allen 6 times on the show, and I am coached by GTD experts to improve my personal productivity. And the GTD has this thing which says you just have one project list. Per project, you have one task. You have nothing in between, no milestones, nothing. One task, what's the next action? And then you have a category called someday maybe. So if you commit to do something, it goes into your project list. Every project has one next step. But if you don't commit, it's either nowhere or it's in maybe. So I learn this, I do this, I practice this, it helps me. I come back to my team and my team has backlog doing done. And I'm like, wait a moment, is backlog something we committed to or something we did not commit to? If it's not committed that we do, well, then let's call it maybe.
Exactly.
And now it's called maybe.
Exactly. All right. So I'm a big fan of the GTD, or Getting Things Done method. I'll put the link in the show notes for those that haven't yet heard about it. And I'm thinking, the moment you mention backlog, obviously it's a list of projects, but it's a never-ending list of projects. And then you said, have we committed to it? And kind of that kind of sparked a light bulb in my mind, because actually that is what happens. Scrum unfortunately had at some point the concept of commitment, but that was what we do in a sprint. But actually when you put GTD and a backlog together, the word commitment means a lot more. And actually it means what I see in reality, which is that every item in the backlog has a cost. Meetings you have, emails you need to respond, SMSs you need to respond, taps in the shoulder that interrupt you, all kinds of other things that come from items that are in the backlog, but should really be in a maybe or maybe never list.
Absolutely. And this is what I do every week when I do my weekly review. I go through the maybe list and I cut that list in half. Every time I pass by, I cut it in half.
Wow. Okay, that takes discipline. I understand why you have a coach.
Everybody should have a coach. It's wonderful. And I'm a very creative person. So I wake up in the morning, I have a ton of ideas. Oh, we could do that. We could start a challenge. We could do a growth hacking workshop with our people. I have 100 ideas what we could do today. And if I let that on my team, I will make everybody crazy. So it's not good. So the first thing, I do this list, and it's my personal maybe list. And then every Friday afternoon, I have time for that scheduled in my calendar. I review that. I cut it in half. I cut it in half. I cut it in half. And only after really being sure that it moves us forward, I will propose that to the team meeting.
Very good. All right. So there's another topic you want to talk about, and that's one that I think will definitely hit home with Scrum Masters. You said in that topic, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Explain to us, what does that mean?
We have goals and we have routines, systems. My goals, for example, are that I want to run certain kilometers per month, that I want to be with my kids for a certain hours per day, etc. These are goals. but then you need also a system that makes that sure that it always happens in good and bad times. If you have only goals, goals can be toxic. They can burn you out. You can reach them, but you don't feel any celebration, and then you have the next goal. Or you don't reach them, and then you feel miserable, and you will lower the next ambition. So goals per se are not really helpful. If they are embedded in a system that supports that goal and where you get challenged and supported, then goals are very helpful. So I like goals. We have even right now a goals challenge on LinkedIn where everybody can put in, I am sharing my monthly goals, other people are sharing their monthly goals, which books we read, how many kilometers we run, etc. Everybody's sharing their goals, and we are supporting each other, challenging each other, clapping at each other, increasing the accountability for each other. And you see, this is embedded in a system. There are people there that support you, that challenge you. This is a system. And every beginning of the month, we publish the goal. And every end of the month, we show the screenshot that we really did run that kilometers, that we really did read that book or not. And then we reflect why we didn't achieve that goal and coach each other. But it's embedded in a system. COVID year right now, we had schools in lockdown. The schools who had goals were not helpful for them, but the schools that had good systems were able to run their operations because they had some good systems. They had the documents and the books, etc., all digitized. They could run the educational operations because they had good systems. So goals don't help you in hard times, but systems do. You never rise to your goal. You just fall as deep as your systems are, because systems are always about standards that you keep.
Absolutely. I that just raised in my mind the question, what systems are we as Scrum Masters putting in place for our teams?
Yes, a ton. The systems of how we start, the rules of how we decide, just the form, how much space do you give them to make a list? How much room is there? So there is a ton of systems that Scrum Masters have, implicit and explicit, and this is part of the value.
So one of the system items that you have in your own system is a bottleneck. And of course, bottlenecks have impacts, very big impacts in the teams we work with and also the organizations we work within. And I wanted to dive a little bit into that. I mean, I know where bottlenecks come from, but give a quick intro of the idea of a bottleneck in terms of, an organization or a team as you see it happening out there in the real world. And then we'll talk about how to identify and solve those. But as you apply the concept, what does that concept of a bottleneck mean for you and your coaches when you work with clients?
Yeah, so the theory of the bottlenecks, you can read it up. There is a wonderful book on that called The Goal, and it's written like a novel, and this audience will know it. But if you don't know it, it's a wonderful book. And it explains in a very simple way from the context of production that if you have many activities improving stuff, you are not improving overall. But if you improve the one weakest part, even by just a couple percent, you are improving the overall output of the whole system. And this might be counterintuitive, but he shows very well how it works. And I can tell you how we use it. We say, okay, what are the systems of a business? And for us, it's operations, marketing, and sales. This is what you do. You do some cool stuff, operations. People are happy. You turn that, what they tell you, into more sales. That's the sales system. And if that works, you tell other people about it. That's the marketing system. Now, and this is also the logical order. It's no use to have a marketing system if you don't have a good product. So everything starts with fulfillment. You go through fulfillment and say, where are we currently weak at and where are we strong at? And then you try to identify the one bottleneck right now. one question to find your bottleneck is always, if you would 10x next week, which part would break? So imagine next week you get 10 times more clients than you usually have. Which part breaks?
Breaks first, right? Which part breaks first? Yeah.
And that's your bottleneck in fulfillment. And you have bottlenecks in sales, and you have bottlenecks in marketing.
Absolutely. So we help customers, or you guys help your customers find those bottlenecks. Where do they usually show up?
Either in fulfillment, or in sales, or in marketing. Most people think they need more leads. So they think it's in marketing. And in 80% of the times, it's not true. We go through their operations, and then we see, even if they get 100 calls per day of people who want their product, they do not convert that call into value. So we have to go into the value converting system, which is the fulfillment itself, and first improve there. We have put together a 15 minutes exercise where your audience can go and check their own bottleneck. I will share it later. So you can do that quite quickly in 15 minutes if you go through the right questions. And we do that before we decide what is the sprint focus of the next week. So we have cycles of 7 days, and we decide which one thing to improve. And the sources are, we ask our clients. So we have an automated way of asking all our clients what's working, what's not working, what are you missing, what should we build next. This is one thing. And then we look also at our vision, the 3 years vision, and we bring these things together and say, okay, what's the bottleneck that we are going to solve next week? And then we set that as the sprint goal. And then the whole team works towards solving that. And this alone is strengthening and is nurturing, because everybody knows what everybody is doing, and we are all doing one thing. So we feel union, we feel challenged, we support each other. It's a sprinty feeling. It's a team. This is team. This is why it's great to be in a team, because everybody's on one page, everybody's doing one thing. And the best part is 7 days later, we can measure if we solved it or not. If we didn't, it's the same sprint for the next week, and we tweak the activities. If we did, we celebrate. And then we find out the next bottleneck. And there is always one.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then there's always the next one. Even if you solve one, there's always the next one. Absolutely.
Yeah, you never run out of bottlenecks. So better enjoy the process.
Exactly. Enjoy the process. You never run out of bottlenecks. Definitely recommend the book you mentioned, The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. Absolutely brilliant book for anyone who's interested in how they can improve their organization or simply their team, how their team is working. All right, Simon, we're getting close to the end here, but before we do go, for those that want to know more, where can they find more about the work that you are doing and, of course, your company Strategy Sprints?
So first, we are hiring. So if you are a great Scrum Master, product owner, whatever, trying to get into the world of strategy consulting, go to strategysprints.com/hiring and see if this is something for you. And the second thing is, if you're trying to find your own bottleneck, then go to strategysprints.com/sales. And this is a 15 minutes exercise where you can find the current bottleneck in your sales funnel. Because right now, the funky year 2020, this is really about surviving this year and gaining as much market shares as possible. So that next year you're still in the game. This can help.
Absolutely. Simon, thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you, Vasco. Keep rolling.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.